So Maureen and I were just talking recently about like promoting long shot books, and I got to remember the password of YouTube. I think it's the same as all the other passwords, but I'm not quite sure. So I got to actually find the password to upload this video. But we were talking about promotion and things to do, interviews, blog posts, blah blah blah, and we brought the YouTube. And what was really funny is Maureen brought up that I made fun of some poem, some horrible, stupid poem. Right when we first started the company, I made fun. I was a little more bold back then because I was in a relationship. The cool thing about being in a relationship is you could say whatever you want, you could do whatever you want because, like, you don't totally care. Like, somebody's in bed next to you every night, so what's the risk? Um, the last book the second last book I published was titled originally titled Unfuckable because it was like all the thoughts that you couldn't publish because it would make you unattractive. Because I think a big part of being an artist is actually secretly selling yourself, like that sex appeal factor. So you can't get away with as much when you're saying. At least that's what I always felt like. You know, Prince never crossed that line. A lot of artists don't cross that line. They want to keep the sex appeal. I don't, because I don't care. I'm doing it for the art. I'm not doing it to attract anybody. I think that's crazy that anybody even would care. But I gotta get a drink. Anyhow, so I was saying how I couldn't make fun of anything like that anymore, but if I did, it would be like a famous author. It'd be somebody who could take the heat. So I wanted an article for a very long time about Neil Gaiman and his he gives the worst writing advice ever. So the preface to this, of course, is he's not a good writer. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Why are we pretending that Neil Gaiman is this like intellectual monolith or something? I mean, he's pretty fucking middle of the road. He he's not a good writer. I'm sorry. Like, his short stories are okay, but his his long term fiction falls apart. It's generally the same concept for most of his books. Like three or four of them. It's all, dude. What if like Greek mythology, but like modern? So like a cell phone god. That's like his whole thing, for years and years. I don't think he's terrible. I think he's untalented. I think he is talented. I think he is smart, but he's like C plus at best. You know what I mean? But my main issue with him comes from this one quote, which I believe is the worst writing advice of all time. I'm going to get into it. So I wrote it down here so I can quote it. Remember, when people tell you something's wrong or doesn't work for them, they're almost always right. When they tell you exactly what they think is wrong and how to fix it, they're almost always wrong. So that's fucking stupid. Because it's comic. I'm sorry. I can't even read it without laughing because think about logic. Let's walk it through. Okay, so let's say this was like a tax bill or something real. And someone's like, yeah, that doesn't work for me. And you're like, that guy must know what's going on. Whereas another person says, well, actually, I think that this tax cut probably wouldn't be feasible because if you factor in the cost of X plus Y and all that, and you're like, no, he gives too many reasons. He explained why it doesn't work, so therefore he's clearly wrong. Whereas the other guy who says otherwise that it does work just because must be right. So you're throwing out reason. There's no logic in writing anymore. It's literally just some fucker said that it didn't work for them, and therefore you must trust it because he didn't give reasons, which is the antithesis of logic. This explains his books. I'll give him that. It's a good it's a good alibi for American Gods, I suppose. But so what would happen to conviction? What happened to artistry? So it's just, if you plan something, if you plot something, if you're Stanley Kubrick, and if one person walks onto the set of I'm trying to think of his last film. I can't remember the title right now. We'll say Passive Glory. And it's like, yeah, I don't know about them all singing at the end at this tavern. I think it should just end with like a big action sequence. Well, you couldn't say that. You say, and it doesn't work. So Stanley Kubrick just ditch it because some sound guy said it just didn't work for him. What? That's how you operate? That's what you think is a viable reason? No, I get it, because like to some extent, I do think those gut feelings work. You know, pick out plot points in TV shows where I'm like, this just doesn't work. But I can give reasons. I can say this doesn't fit the tone of the series. This is out of character. This takes away from the main plot. It's a distraction, or it's not developed right. At least that's a reason. I would never in my fucking life hear somebody say, especially like if you're working on like a book like he does or a comics series, and he has a test reader just say, it just doesn't work. And he's like, okay, I'll scrap it. What? I mean, there's nothing more to say. I mean, truly, it is the stupidest, worst writing advice ever given. Nobody else could possibly give worse writing advice. It's not even feasible. So, if you can think of worse writing advice, comment it, because I guess that gets us clicks or something. If I can even publish this, because I found the password, which I probably won't be able to. But I think it's nuts. I think it's bozo. I think Neil Gaiman's a dork, and he should probably be ashamed. And he should probably work on his craft, to be honest. I mean, I heard an allegory once. Not an allegory, but somebody just dissing him. And they said, Neil Gaiman is the Hot Topic Stephen King or Clive Barker. And that's exactly what he is. He really is just the MCR compared to the David Bowies. Or the Queens, I should say more accurately, with MCR reference. Anyhow, yeah, that's it. That's the worst writing advice you'll ever hear in your life.